as well.
Right, yeah. It's just displacing.
I feel like that's a lot though. Like at
Not
this
with a
point,
big
It's just some air.
Not with
When
a
you look
big
at the
head.
facility, right? It's humongous and basically just empty, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they got this $1 billion for the facilities and everything, but then they didn't really have money to buy the tools, and it was
tragic.
I think it will be interesting to see what.
I guess Howard isn't the only one that does that.
I think
What
it's
is?
except for McDonald's. Well, Chick-fil-A is there.
Because it's retail.
Alright, and as soon as you all know about Cleveland, this is one of our small that we have. We call it flexible. When you're looking at the major facilities, such as the nano fabrication facility over in the Allen building, which we'll look later on, there used to be a lot of concern that these dirty materials would be introduced. Dirty being, for example, gold, which is very compatible with biology. Yeah.
And so this is kind of like, dang, this is on gallium arsenide.
Yeah, look at that reflector design. It's so interesting.
I know it's kind of
These
really
are
cool.
memory devices
Yeah,
that they have been doing.
Take notes, take mental notes.
Some of these are pretty old examples. As you can see, 2010. But yeah, there's a pretty long.
You choose usually like argon or xenon, and you can use that beam to then etch in your sample.
Yep.
Perfect.
Yep.
All right, so people
It
use
uses
that to
mass.
kind of,
That's the key.
yeah, you
Right.
have these heavy ions that you bombard, and it basically sputters off the material, and then you can make a very small membrane.
So you
that
guys
might
would-
pull out.
What do you guys use, gallium or xenon?
So
Yeah, that
this
makes sense.
this one has a number of. So gallium is kind of your standard that we have on.
Xenon, that's it.
But this one also uses. Oh, I actually don't know all the elements that they're using, but
It's
this
combined
is called
with
a
the
I have
plasma.
I have a whole
In the
project
same
that-
chamber?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh.
So you can swap the iron sources. Basically.
Really, man,
Yeah.
it's not a big deal.
The other thing that we have on here is a SIMS. So on the normal FIB, you kind of get.
Getting really high resolution images is that our electron beam passes all the way through. And that means it has to be very, very thin, so typically about 100 nanometers or less in thickness. That makes it very difficult to take samples, but then that's a boring image. Well, come back around to an interesting one here in a moment. But that allows us to get actually all the way down to atomic resolution images. This is almost where you can see it. We'll zoom in here in a moment. We're doing stuff. I don't know where they're going.
Alright, we will move that out for but
And this is the TM right there.
yeah, this is one of the teams.
Oh, this was that aberration corrected environmental TM.
So we have that over in the other room there.
Got it.
This is a double corrected regular TV.
Okay.
So it can do both these really high resolution images in rifle mode, just looking at crystallography. This is EDS mapping, so we can actually look at the
Yes.
composition of some nanoparticles. In this case, they're silicon shell gold nanoparticles. So you can see the silicon, the outside shell, and the gold in between. And then here is the gold particles. That's where you can start to see the gold atoms in the lattice here, these nanoparticles, going all the way down to these little clusters there. Here you go. This one is actually graphite. this is actually taken at very low KVs. One of the nice things about this system is it's what we call monochromated.
Yeah.
It allows us to preserve our resolution when we go down to very low accelerating voltages. Most of the time, to get very high resolution, we have to operate at 300 kV. But that's 75% of the speed of light. It destroys most samples, right?
Yeah.
They just evaporate. So like here, this graphite structure, these carbon atoms would normally be all, you know, it just turns into an amorphous blob at 300 kV. But at 60 kV like this, we can actually still see the lattice structure of the carbon. Much more difficult to align, but very, very powerful to be able to do that. And then once again, this is actually looking at actual nanowire transistors. In this case, trying to look at the crystal structure in there. And then we can always add color to them by actually looking at the phase of the lattice. In this case, this is actually just an asbestos fiber.
Yeah.
It's kind of an interesting thing to look at. In our ETIM, this is where we can actually flow gases directly into it and then watch chemical reactions at nanoscale in real time.
Oh wow.
So, and then of course people can take the particles from that system, take it back over here, and actually get lattice level chemical maps using
Wait a minute, you
ETIM.
say you're actually imaging the chemical reactions in real time. So you say you
Yeah.
now gotten rid of all the integration bottlenecks then.
It's a complex experiment. Amy here is one of our major ETIM super users.
Yeah, a lot of chemistry in the TEM. And there are still bottlenecks, but
Yeah.
we're working on it.
That still is very cool.
Yeah, but certainly you can see that this is like right here where they're flowing carbon dioxide gas in for these magnesium oxide nanoparticles, and as a reaction occurs, it keeps jumping. You start having this very strange shell showing up, which is very cool to be able to see. So, yeah, and of course, high resolution, just in
That was
general,
always cool too.
being able to match the lattice structures.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's the last problem. But of course, nobody's currently using. Are they using this? Okay, so we could just all pop in and just take a look.
What's your average time to get the system from powered off?
You can open these major doors here, and you can see what it looks like inside. Let me turn on the light so you can actually. There we
Yeah.
go. Oh, and there we go.
Because I was using a TEM over the summer, but it was one of the really old ones.
Yeah.
And so it's like we had to manually like power step it.
Right. So some of the old ones, like probably like a tungsten or a lab 6
Yeah.
TEM. Yeah. So those were ones where you still power it up every day with
Yeah.
filament. Any technology of it, but the Schottky sources are super cool because they actually, to get a really highly coherent electron source, which is important for the high resolution imaging, it actually is carefully designed such that all the electrons actually quantum tunnel through the surface of the emitter, and it creates a quantum filter for the coherency of the electron. It's a really awesome technology. And then past that, in sort of the rest of that thing that's the corrupt service, whatever, is what we call the accelerator. And that's actually just a very compact linear particle accelerator that takes them from where the electrons are just kind of coming out at, you know, a few hundred EV, a few hundred volts energy, and then it jumps them all the way up to 300 kV, which is basically taking it from, you know, a few miles per hour up to 75% the speed of light. And then it goes into all the lenses. And so these first sets of things here, these are the apertures we use to sort of coarsely shape the beam, and then the electromagnetic lenses in these cylinders themselves. There's 3 lenses that then form the electron probe itself, and then this giant cylinder right here is actually the probe corrector. And that's then what takes it from, say, a pretty reasonable, maybe 0.2 nanometer type probe that we can get down to, which is still pretty good. You can still image atomic lattice with that. And then it takes it all the way down to about a 48 picometer probe, in which case we get the really nice lattice. And after that we have the objective, and this is actually where the sample goes in right here. So there's a sample rod, little tiny 3mm disc that your sample goes on. It's loaded through a load lock that's in here, so we kind of pre-pump with the vacuum and then finish rotating it in. So this is the main image forming lens, and then after that is where we have the image corrector. It's doing the exact same thing as a probe corrector, but instead of correcting the aberrations of the electron probe, it corrects the aberrations of the electron image. So double corrected systems are not very common because Each one of these is about another extra $1 million that gets added onto the cost of the system. So most people pick one or none, but we have both. And then as we come down, all the rest of this is actually then just the magnification. Because once it comes out of here, it's still basically just, well, it's actually kind of funny. This.
That's crazy. I can't beat this. Apparently that's NAND. That's a NAND gate. That's a 3D NAND.
I like the yellow light.
I waited for like 10 minutes and I was like,
You can get used to this. It's not bad.
Not really. I don't like it. This is XPS, X-ray electronic spectroscopy. So essentially, X-ray depending on the source. I think for this one we use aluminum, and aluminum is the source of X-ray. And the X-ray is bombarded on the surface of your sample, and depending on the binding energy of your material, the electron that is being excited is analyzed using a detector in the machine. And so depending on the kinetic energy, electrons are being, I guess, counted, and then we're able to detect the binding energy of the materials on the surface of your sample, and then it's, I guess, reflects as like output of signals, and then we're able to find out the like elements in your samples and the different oxidational states of the materials. And yeah, and we also do an angle resolve XPS, so that essentially helps us to figure out the location of your samples on the surface, the location of your species and the species of your sample, and that helps us find like the thickness of your sample of your film, I guess, etc. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yay. Right? Like your X-ray vision, your medical X-rays, you can see your bone inside the materials. And so here we can use the X-rays to actually look at smaller structures. Let's say, for example, a battery that you can look at the whole object, but you can see inside the battery. So you can see the different layers, the different materials that become visible. So it's a non-destructive technique that allows you to visualize something in 3 dimensions. We do this by taking one image, rotating the sample, taking another image, pretty much like a medical CT. Well, except here, you don't rotate the patient in the medical CT, you rotate the source and the detector. Here we rotate the sample, and then we reconstruct that into the 3-dimensional volume, and then you can render it. So people use this kind of to look at batteries. People will hook up batteries or devices that they fabricate, do a cycling on the battery, and see for structural changes that might be apparent in the battery. We have people that look at bone structures. We have people that look at shale, kind of trying to determine the pores in the shale and how difficult it is to extract the energy, the gases out of shale. So a lot of different applications in this kind of visual microscope.
Exactly.
Appreciate you.
You could tell it's definitely an architectural aesthetic. Very aesthetic. So where's your favorite place? If you wanted to like detach and just like meditate, let go, where you go?
Oh, that's all. Okay.
And then, yeah. And are you coming back with us to San Jose, or you got?
Come on now. Look at that board. I didn't know Asus made that boards. This is hard. The couches is what's out.
They sleep here.
They don't leave. Yeah.
So many people, they use like different robots like build things. Like even medicine. I wonder if it's cheap.
Is this so crazy? Is this the kind of place you can see yourself?
Yes, I really do think so.
Yeah, right. That's what they're there for.
At least for South Korea. Now Japan already has that culture.
Yeah, it's the woman. You understand?